This podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Google, Acast, Anchor, and many other popular platforms.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hudson.
Good afternoon, Paul. Sorry, I was just tasting a drop of my Crown Royal bourbon, which it was my favourite tipple in Seattle. That's where I found the drink, and been my favourite ever since. And it's wonderful to have a bottle at home. You can't drink it in pubs because it's just one that you have to savour, Paul. So being a bit of a connoisseur of alcohol,
You've been known to have a few in your time, Huddy.
I did leave a little message for Georgie Best, my old mate Jules, today on I just flicked through Facebook, and I left him a message saying, I was the first one up to see him in hospital, and what I said to him when I went to the hospital, they allowed me in, which they weren't allowing people in, and Phil Hughes come out and got me and said, George, we'll see you. And I said, George, I'm not here today for me. I said, I'm here to represent the whole of Chelsea. I said, people just love you living in the King's Road. It's just sad that you never signed for a site you wanted to, and you'd have been probably the biggest, probably along with Jimmy Greaves, it would have been right up there with, he was in the world, wasn't he? Just a pity that this World Cup lark, he didn't, he couldn't get to the big stage with Northern Ireland. But it was, I think that's what caused his downfall. I think he used to drink heavily around the World Cup time and continued. And I think had he been playing in the World Cup on the big stage like we've just seen in Qatar, I think he would have still been alive,
Absolutely. And welcome all to Alan Hudson's American Dream. And we're going to be talking about your time in America. Young Hud, as you were called, but now it's Young Hud. Anthony is manager of the American national team. They've just played 2 games against Serbia and California. And just to keep the American theme going, Al, I'm drinking a king of beers, a Budweiser, while we're making this podcast to keep it American, although it was Czechoslovakian, wasn't it, originally?
Well, I don't know about that. All I know, it wasn't my tipple. I like a couple of American beers, as it happens. I used to do it was a clear bottle, and it was the most beautiful beer the lager I've ever tasted. You couldn't get it here, and when I went down to Florida later on and bought a little home in Florida, which is no longer there, I came across a alcoholic drink called Rolling Rock.
Right.
And it was like the champagne of beers. You've never tasted nothing. If you write it down, Paul, and ask... in fact, when I got to Stoke, it was a crazy thing that when I come back from America and went to Stoke to play for Stoke the second time, it was amazing that my friend had an American, like a bistro bar where all the players used to go, players and all that. And I told him to order the Rolling Rock in, and it went down like a house on fire, mate. It was unbelievable, and I do miss it. And I should actually order it. I've seen it online. I should order it. Really, it really is. If it's one of those. If you don't like beer, you could taste this and you would say, "Oh, I like that."
Yeah.
I will now have. I now convert myself to beer. Probably a little bit expensive if you buy it online over because it's imported, whatever. But it's well worth the extra $5.
What else? Let's talk about alcohol a bit, because you did have a bar whilst you were in America. I mean, it wasn't like a bar that you bought. It was your house in Bellevue, but you had a bar attached to it, didn't you? So, alcohol was a big part of your lifestyle there in America.
Well, it was the first thing. As soon as I signed in Seattle, Ken Fryer at Arsenal, who's still... Did he leave us? I don't know.
No, I think he's still with us. I think
he's still with us. He's in his 80s, Ken, and he was my saviour at Arsenal when I was falling out with Terry Neal. Ken was a man that every football club should have. He was absolutely outstanding at his job. He was a gentleman, and when I was having big trouble with Arsenal, he in the end, he said to me, this is the first time ever happened to me, Paul. He said to me, Alan, first of all, I think I might have told you the story when he called me in the office and said, we've had a bid for you. And I went, oh, great. And he said, a Spanish club. And I went, oh, wonderful. I'd always wanted to play in Spain. I love the weather. And Real Madrid or Barcelona, of course, yeah. And he went, no. He said, Hercules. And I thought it Steptoe's horse straight away. He said, what are you laughing at? I went, yes, it's Steptoe's horse, Hercules. I said, you're kidding me. And he went, no, they put in a bid. And on Wikipedia, it actually says that I played for Hercules.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, on one, I've seen it on site that it's got my past clubs, and it had on there Hercules, which I never did go to Spain. I've never been that part of the world anyway. I wouldn't even know where the football club is. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, after I'd met Bobby Moore, who'd been to Seattle, and Bobby talked me into going to see Jimmy Gabbie, who was in the restaurant at Stamford Bridge that particular day. I went to see Jimmy and I signed, and first night in the Space Needle, I knew it was a city, like they sing about New York, it was a city that never sleeps. It was just an amazing place, and I'm very sad to hear that it's gone downhill. But it was a wonderful introduction, mate. Wonderful. It couldn't be better, you know. Ken Fry said to me, he said, Alan, he said, you've had a hard time here at Arsenal. This is the kind of man he was. You know, this is a tribute to him. And I've never heard anyone have a bad word about him in football, which is rare in football clubs. And he said, would you like me? He said, Jack Daly's flying in from Seattle tomorrow. He said, they want to sign you. You've already spoke to Jimmy Gabriel. You haven't spoke terms. You want me to go and sort your contract out for you? And I said, if you would, Ken, because I'm useless on contracts. I've never done one in my life. I've never talked about money. I always sign for football alone. And he sat down in the room at London Airport with me and Jack Daly, a very nice man who's Seattle's general manager. And he got me a deal that I would never, ever have dreamt of getting if I'd have done it myself. He just unbelievable. And he got me a 25 grand upfront payment. I mean, I left there for 100 grand. I signed for Stoke for $250,000 for, 3 years earlier. And then because I had a bad time, the roof fell off. I had a bad time at Arsenal for injury, and which I apologise to Pat Jennings online. Running up this morning, I said, I wish I could have played like you at Arsenal. But the 25 grand I put straight into the house we see in Bellevue on the hill, and the first thing I did, we had introduced to an English builder who built the house called, believe it or not, Timon Sinclair, not Simon. Unbelievable name. Yeah. It was so backward, but he was an absolutely top man. And I said, the first thing I want, Simon, I said, I love the house, but I need a bar built. And I left him to it, went training, I come home and he said, it's finished. I said, you can't be finished, it's ridiculous. And what he did is built one of those American bars that you'll see on the TV in the movies, where the bar is built into the wall.
Yeah, got you.
Not like what we know as a bar. You walk in a pub and you sit at the bar. I said, Simon, what have you done? I said, that's not a bar. I said, you're English, don't you know? He said, well, I haven't been back to England for so many years. I don't know what. I said, no. And I sketched it out, and he built me the most wonderful bar. And we had hell of a parties in there, and everybody fell in love with my bar, and in particular my music, which we always play and we go through. And I remember, I think we did on one of the shows, Alan Hinton, I put George Benson singing The Greatest Love of All on one day, and he started crying.
Yeah.
And he went, this is the most beautiful song I've ever met, because Alan lost a son at an early age, and devastated the family. He was a lovely man, Alan, and it devastated him. And I think that brought it all flooding back to him. The greatest love of all is the love inside of you. It was a great George Benson number. Whitney Houston done it. But anyway, it's your ball anyway. You get the ball rolling, mate.
No, absolutely. I love listening to your stories, Al, because it's your stories, it's your adventure stroke dream over there
Yes.
in America. And Alan Hinton did put up on his socials last week that very story, and he said that was it
Did he
Vince?
really?
Yeah, Vince Colucci was it? He said I remember him taking us all to a George Benson concert while we were in America. I don't know if you can recall going to watch George Benson with all the Seattle boys, or whether it was before your time, or
Well, no, Alan followed me there. But I was there with Jimmy Gabriel, and Jimmy got the sack. And that was a great story when I was going to pack up with Jimmy, and I was in a Kings Road restaurant, and my mother called me with the news Jimmy Gabriel's been on. Give me his number. I phoned him in Seattle, and I said, Jimmy, if you're going, I'm going. And he said, Alan, don't be so stupid. He said, you love it here. He said, you've got a wonderful contact. You've got a wonderful life. I know you love it and everybody loves you. Stay. Please give Alan a chance. And, that's the kind of people that you don't get in the football. You don't get with Jose Mourinho or anyone like that. Wouldn't do something like that. They're all with their egos and, it's all me, isn't it? And I thought that was, and I've been back to Seattle since, and I reminded him, and he said, Alan, well, that's why you signed me. I said, Jim, yeah, because I knew that's what kind of man you were. So there's so many special memories, Paul, of Seattle.
absolutely. And Alan Hinton, of course, I think he was the manager, wasn't he, of Tulsa in your debut
Yes, yes.
for Seattle. So there's such a connection, and what a winger, what a wide player Alan Hinton was, not just in this country but over in the States, and managed Seattle to your fabulous season of 1982, which they're still talking about. And I did post up on your official Alan Hudson Facebook page the other day a picture of the roster of all them players with all your signatures, and there was
Yeah.
a lot of fans commenting and remembering those times so dearly. What was your favourite road trip? Because you used to do a load of road trips, didn't you, Al, before we go on to current stuff with
Well,
Anthony?
the ex-wife will be well pleased with this one because it was a 10-day trip. It was like I can remember when I was playing at Stoke and lived with Jeff Hurst, and he was my landlord, and Dame Judith was my landlady. I had to move in with them when I signed there, and every time we went on a road trip, and he used to pack his bags whistling, and Judith used to go nuts. She'd go, "How dare you be so rude? Can't you wait till you get out the door?" And me with a 10-day trip to Tampa Bay, we would go to play 4 games in 10 days. They talk about football today, and these were tough games. We'd go down play in Tampa Bay, we'd play and then fly to Fort Lauderdale, fly to New York, and then fly to Washington, play 4 games in like 9 days and be home on the 10th day. And I remember one time, I think we might have spoke about this on one of your shows. I remember sitting in Fort Lauderdale after one game. It was about our third match, and everybody was in the bar. Everybody had a drink, and they had their feet in ice buckets. They had ice packs on their knees. They had ice pack on their necks, on their shoulders, everywhere. It was like if you watch MASH, with Alan Alda, the mobile hospital in Vietnam. It was like a scene from that when they take you through, and all the walking wounded were there, and that was us, and everybody got up and we played the 4th game, and when I see this managers moan today about they had a day off on Monday and we didn't, and all this, and I think get on with it, stop whinging and moaning and basically just making excuses for poor performances.
Absolutely. You referenced Hercules in Spain, but before you actually got that move to America, and as you've alluded to via the great Bobby Moore, was there any whispers of you ever going to America beforehand? Because the gates were opening, wasn't they? The NASL was up and running. There was a number of players that went in the close season, pretty much in those days, early days, and earned a few quid more, so it seemed to us fans, by
Yeah,
playing America and coming back. I know Malcolm McDonald, I'd done the podcast with Malcolm, and he always used to play during every close season. In fact, I mean, famously, when you got sent home from
yeah.
Australia with Malcolm, Malcolm was already over there. He come back and went back. But again, that was Terry Neal, and that was another story. So, was there any chance that you had beforehand of going to
Yes, there
state?
was. Yes, there was. I don't know if you remember me telling you, but before I go on to that,
Yeah,
it was them days was where they play football year round now because of the money, which is ridiculous. Players need a break.
yeah,
You could actually, it was a great idea to go to America and play in the close season because it was like a working holiday.
yeah,
Although I trained hard and I took it serious, and but you're keeping yourself throughout, and you didn't have to come back and go through the vigorous routine of pre-season, which was the most painful thing you've ever. It's like I can imagine how a lady feels having a baby. Well, if she done a pre-season at Chelsea or Arsenal or Stoke or whatever, it's painful, mate, really. And so that knocks that on the head, and you go and go to a wonderful place in America. Great experience for English lads, to go over there and experience the wonders of the USA. I mean, it's a magnificent country, and as I said to you before, I remember my namesake, Rocky Hudson at Newcastle United. He played the first season. I played against him. He was a real decent player, and I thought this fella's going to go places. And he first season at Newcastle, he went to Fort Lauderdale and never come back.
yeah.
And he might have played for England, although he's probably too good a player to play for England because he didn't pick the best players. But to answer your question, yes, I think we might have spoke about it. The great man Billy Foulkes, who was in the Munich air crash, phoned Tony Waddington, and he said, "Can I go and speak to Alan? We'd like to take him to San Jose." He was manager of San. I didn't know the way there, by the way. I knew that was going, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, George went there, Georgie.
Yeah.
Well, I played against San Jose when Bestie went there, but that was later. Anyway, Billy come round my house in Barlison, which was a lovely part of the Potter. It's a beautiful place. I love the village. That's where they had the cake named after me and everything else, And I sat with Billy, and I said to Billy, he wanted me to come. I wanted to go. I don't know for what reason I didn't go. I don't know whether I broke my leg or something. The only time I broke my leg, but I said to him, "How do you feel about, every game you go to, Billy, it's a flight. You went through, if you don't mind me touching on it, you went through the Munich thing." And he said, "No, Alan," he said, it's like falling off a bike. You got to get up, and the sooner you get back on it, And he told me the story of him sitting in the middle of the plane, more to the front, but in the middle where they have, because he was about 6'2", 6'3", Billy, and he said I had plenty of leg room and I had a couple of seats next to me. He said, and I was really comfortable. And Bobby Charlton come down from the back of the plane. He said, "Billy, do me a favour, come and sit with me." He said, "Because I've got this most horrible feeling." And Billy said, no, you come and sit with me. Look at the legroom I got." He went, no, please come up the back, Billy. I got a horrible feeling. He said, "Now, went and sat up the back with Bobby Charlton." He said, "And where it happened was where I was sitting. The plane it would have cut him in half." He said, "If it hadn't been for Bobby asking me for," and it's a wonderful story, to live, like a little bit like me when I was in my coma and they had the last rites and all that. But to actually be on that plane and think, that could, then poor Bobby Charlton. I think that was why he lost his hair and everything else. I think that ruined him. What he went on to do after the Munich air crash and Manchester United, Busby rebuilding the team after that tragedy, was just phenomenal.
What a fantastic story, but sadly you didn't go to San Jose.
No,
but you
No, I'm
did.
glad I did. I'm glad I didn't in the end, because I
Yeah.
might fell in love with San Jose and then not gone to. I might have signed in, but the only thing, if I'd have signed us out of season for San Jose and then come back to play for Stoke, I probably would have loved that part of California. I didn't really know it too well, and the following season, my first season, George signed for San Jose as a, like me, a permanent player, not a out of season player. So. And I played against George at the Kingdom in his first game. We beat them 4-0, and he looked really out of shape. And that's the only way I like playing against George, when he was out of shape, because otherwise he'd tear you to pieces. But yeah. So it was what might have been. But although I love the sunshine, because 11 months of the year in Seattle it's a rainy kind of place. But I never noticed the rain. I just had a ball, and I had such a good time that I came back and the wife stayed over there. So I think that sums it all up, you know. But she didn't let me know when I got on the plane to come back. She didn't say nothing. She just, took everything, raped me of everything. But that's her prerogative. Good luck to her. But I had a fabulous time.
Was there a favourite ground or team that you played against, Al, while you were out there in America?
Of course, yeah. It had to be New York, didn't it?
Yeah.
Giant Stadium was, a wonderful stadium. They had a fabulous team. They had the Kaiser again, Franz Beckenbauer. They had Giorgio, who we spoke about, the great Giorgio Shinaglia. They had Bogacivic. I was writing today about my friend Steve Buttles, no longer with us. He's
Yes.
younger. He was younger than me. He gave Johan Neeskens a right run around one night in Giant Stadium, and I scored the winning goal from a shootout, and first one I'd ever taken. And I was in the dressing room after, and the cameras shot on me, zoomed into me. He said, "Alan, you're man of the match tonight." And I said, "Look," you better move this camera." And I said, "See the fellow over there? Have you been watching the game?" They didn't know much about the game. I said, "No, that can't possibly be true." I said, "This fellow was magnificent tonight. He ran." Johan Neeskens played in the World Cup final and played alongside Johan Cruyff and all that. And I said, my little mate from Bournemouth, let's give him the absolute runaround. I said, he's man of the match. I said, please don't embarrass me. So, but Giant Stadium, and it wasn't some. Wasn't just playing there. It was the aftermatch, the piano bars, and I visualised Billy Joel when he met Chrissy Brinkley in the piano bar, and she sat next to me, sang this song about her. It's a dream.
Yeah.
We can all. There's nothing wrong with dreaming. People say to me, "You're a dreamer, Al," and I went, "Yeah, it ain't bad actually. It's not bad dreaming, because if you can dream, then you can do something about making that dream come true." And I did. I got to New York, and I loved playing it. That was my stadium, my kind of people. The New York people, because there was every nationality under the sun living in New York, as you know, from Saturday Night Fever or whatever, it was, they're all Hispanic, and they're this, they're that, the other, and they love their football, and that's the great environment. And I suppose if I had if I could have tinkered with it, I would have loved to sign for New York Cosmos, to have a couple of years in New York. I love the place, and I love the football club, and I'd love to play with. I'd love to, instead of going up and shaking hands with Giorgio before the game, I would have loved to have played with him. He was a fabulous man and a fabulous player. And I used to call him Don when I used to go up at a toss-up. It was like Don Corleone. He was like, Marlon Brando, And I think I told you a story when we played against him one day, and he handed me over their New York banner. It was worth as much as our team. And I didn't have a banner. I said, "Giorgio, I'm so sorry." I said, "Our club's light years behind yours." And he said to me, "Alan, don't worry about that." He said, "Is your son at the game?" I said, "Yeah, he's over on the touchline, actually." He said, "We'll call him over." And I called young Alan over, and he handed him the banner.
Wow.
He said, "If we don't have one, then your son can have it." And that's what kind of man he was, It wasn't, you can imagine in England, there's some of the players going to say, "Oh, well, it would have been," but the absolute top superstar, the man.
And what a character! One of the game's great characters, and a great player to boot. I mean, a lot of people again used to diss the NASL and say, well, they wouldn't have been able to do it in Italy or in England. Hold on, hold on,
Oh,
hold on.
that's rubbish.
Yeah,
That's rubbish.
hold on a minute.
That's rubbish.
Lazio
We
won.
won't. Yeah.
Lazio
Sorry,
won
go
the
on.
Lazio won the first league title, the Serie A, with Giorgio in the team.
Yeah,
I mean, he scored a rake of goals for Lazio. I mean, Giorgio Canaglia would have scored goals anywhere he went. It was
absolutely.
the league of absolute superstars. And you reference Johan Nayskins. I was watching a video about Rinus Michaels, who was, I think he was born on this day. Sadly, he's passed away. I think he passed away to 2005, but it was going through his career, and Barcelona had won nothing for 14 years until he brought Cruyff and Nayskins to the new camp, and they transformed Barcelona. Stevie
Yeah,
Buttle giving him, and in your words today, when you posted that, ruined Nayskins.
he ruined it, man. He really did ruin. I mean,
Yeah,
you didn't know if you was a stranger and just went to your first football match, you'd have thought Steve Buttle was the one that was
yeah,
Dutch and played in the World Cup. He was that good a player.
yeah.
And I had the pleasure to, after he died, bless him, I had the pleasure to tell his son when I went back. He was grown up by then. I didn't never met his son while I was there, and I went back years later, and he said, "I hear you was very good friends with my dad." I said, "Yeah, he's a very special man, mate." I said, "And what a player!" I said, "You don't understand. If you get as much film as you can of your dad playing football, he was magic. He was absolute magic." And fair play to Alan Hinton. He could have easily got rid of him when he moved and got and bought another player, top name player from England, but he didn't. He knew how much I thought of him, and when I nearly walked out on Seattle, Alan said, "Don't worry about it. Buttle's going to stay," and I went, "You better stay. He's a top player," And if I hadn't went to Seattle, I'd have never heard of Steve Buttle. So them little sidelines, and the magic memories. And when I had a problem in my house, me and Maureen and young Al, I went to stay with him a few days before to have the place sorted out, and they were just a lovely family. It was one big happy family. Great. When you think you had players coming in from all directions from England, in Chicago they were all German. That was like England versus Germany. Great matches in Chicago. They were tough games, mate. New York would have been in the top three in England at that
Yeah.
time, alongside Liverpool. Don't worry about that. We would have been probably a little bit down the pecking order, but New York with their players because they had the clout as well. And of course, they had Pelé there, then they had Beckenbauer, they had Cruyff there, and my God, have had them all in their prime. They'd have probably won the World Cup, World Championship.
But
Unbelievable.
but they were, and they did, didn't they? They used to go on tour, the
Yeah,
Cosmos, and they would fill grounds all around the world wherever they played. Europe was certainly a place that they used to like to ply the trade, but they come over and played at Stamford Bridge, didn't they? The
they
one year.
did. They toyed with Chelsea.
Hmm.
I was there that night. Johan played, and strangely enough, I met his cousin come out of Turkish baths in a place called Bayswater, and I went into a pub and I was speaking to this Dutch fellow, and it was his uncle or something, and he said, "I'm going to the match tonight." I went, "Oh wow," but they at that time. It's funny you mentioned that because it was like they were like the Harlem
Yeah, they
Globetrotters,
were. Yeah.
and that's the only way you can really sum it up. Only Harlem Globetrotters did it for kicks, and it was all for fun, really. But these were a seriously good team, fabulous team.
But they were years ahead, wasn't they? I mean, they had a lot of big money backers behind the Cosmos. In fact, they were called New York Metros before, and it
Yeah.
wasn't a big enough name, so they called it the Cosmos, because like instead of Metropolitan, we're Cosmopolitan, and I mean, it
Were
would
they
be
Warner
great.
Brothers, those, Paul? They were Warner
Yes, there
Brothers,
were.
weren't
Yeah, the fella
they?
that owned Warner Brothers, and I think
Yeah.
Atari, and one or two other businesses as well. I mean, there was a lot of money going in there, but
Yeah.
they were selling American football, well, soccer as they call it, but
Yeah.
football as we know it. And as you alluded to, they were like the Harlem Globetrotters.